Welcome to Python for .NET Developer. This is Ling Zhu. I have been working with Microsoft .NET Platform, C Sharp, and then everything for a while. Recently, I have been getting into the machine learning and deep learning field. And upon checking, so I've been kind of doing some homework around the different courses online, like Udacity, and then I've been attending like something like a TensorFlow deep learning. And then turns out that the Python language is really important. I've been using the Python to do those library labs, and then I found out that the Python language is somehow a little bit different than the C sharp. So it's kind of a little bit bother me when it's kind of a slow down my learning speed. So I decided to spend a little bit time to systematically learning the Python language itself. So after, about a week of summary, um, I kind of produced this as a video as an output for or I have discovered so far. Hopefully this is also helpful for you as well. So let's get started. And then by the way, all these material will be available on the GitHub later. I will show the link shortly. So let's get started. We were going to cover these topics from the basic types, what kind of type system does Python have, and then what kind of common operations like and or operation those, and then some of the useful function you will see everywhere. And then most importantly, the coding style was a difference between C Sharp and Python. And then we're gonna look at the most used data structure like list set and then take a look at the class definition, how that different than the C sharp, and then we will spend a little bit time on looking some of the useful libraries we're gonna use very often, and then the tools I've been using, and then also a list of the resource kind of recommended. Starting with the basic types. So it's not much different than C sharp. Like you have integer float, C sharp you have decimal, and then you have the it's kind of similar. And then string is kind of the similar. So string, bool is a boolean, object. So by the way, every Python kind of a type is a part of the is inherit from the object, just like C sharp. So you do one is an integer type. You use type to know what kind of type that type, like a single quote or double quote is a string. 1.5 anything that will become a decimal here is basically the type of float. And then the fourth choose only difference is the between C sharp the capital F and then T for Boolean value and the object. Definitely a class or anything else would be a type of object. So how do you convert a type? So that's really simple. In C sharp, you do the type in front of the value itself. Here is just you just like a function, something like that. So you do a float and then you put the integer there, it become a float. And then also the same for string conversion as well. So you want to pass a string into a integer or float, you just do a float and then put a string there. It will do the conversion for you. If doesn't convert, then it will throw exception. So this is kind of a little bit simpler than C sharp. You'll use like string.parse or integer.parse. I mean, um, okay. So the basic type is not much different, and then the basic operation you was here is a common used operations. So these are exactly the same as C sharp. You do equal, add, minus, multiply, divide, and then mod. So these are exactly the same. And then divide, one thing for the divide, if you divide two thing, it will become a float in afterwards. I do a double divide or two forward slash. Um, is basically a divide and a round. So 3 divide 2, I mean 3 2 4 slash 2 means like it will result 1. And then another need function is need operation is the double star. Double star here for 2 integer will basically power. So 3 double star 3 means 3 power of 3. That was 27. And then another really useful here is you do a string multiplication means you concatenate the same string multiple times. It's really handy. So for the logic operation in C Sharp, Java, or whatever C, you will see the character and then vertical line to double vertical line, and then exclamation mark for not. So these kind of abstract way um, to represent the logic. However, like in Python, is more nature language oriented. You do and or not. So this is really readable for anyone who doesn't have any programming experience. Another thing is about lambda expression. So lambda expression C# is using the equal and arrow. So here you just say lambda and then put the parameter in the front and then do a colon and then do the remaining of the function as a return value. So I would say not much different. So those were the basic operations. So how about the basic function? You will see a lot. So definitely you want to print something when you initial learning or so you do print just like a console.line in C sharp, and then you do the dot format, and then similar to C sharp dot format, I mean string dot format. How long is the string? You do a length function. So data structure. So these are the we will see these everywhere basically. So the list you will see really a lot. You do how do you declare a list is essentially really simple. You put the square bracket, and then dictionary you do a curly bracket, and then tuple you do just round bracket. So these three bracket probably you will see a lot. And then this is kind of it's really neat. I would say the declaration for new a list or new dictionary much simpler compared to C sharp. And then you will see the strong side of these Python data structures. And then of course you have another two thing like called set and range, which is kind of unique here. Is set is more like mathematic oriented, I would say. A range is kind of also kind of really used a lot in the math operations as well, right? So sorry, Python actually doesn't have um, array, although is the syntax really similar to C sharp array. But here it's called a list. And to me, this Python list is a strong is a combination of the array plus the generic list in C sharp plus more. You will see that the list here is really strong and powerful. So how do you declare a list? You just a list equal to square bracket, and then you will initiate a empty list, or you put the item within that separate by comma, and then you can put anything in the list. So there's no type here. I mean, it is strong typed, but you can put any object there. So here you put the integer first, and then you put string, and then you see in this example here. Um, and then type of list will be a type of class. Um, So how do you access the list? Is it similar to arrays in C sharp? You do index. So do you want to get a first one and second one? Another really useful, which is different than C sharp, is you can do a reverse indexing. You get the last item via -1, which is really handy. So one another thing is really powerful is the called list slicing. So here you have all the mounts, like 12 mounts here. And then how do you get the third quarter of the all the mounts? You just do 6 to 9, and then you will return, as you can see here, is returned in the third quarter, only three months for you. And then if you only specify the first index, like the second, and you will get, and then do not do the remaining, you will get the any item from the second all the way to the end. Really strong, powerful. Here's a set of the common used function, like how long, what's the length of the list? You do a length function len function, and then you do a min max is will get the minimum and maximum item within the month. Since the month here is not an integer, we are using the string version, so we'll compare via the alphabetical order of the months. So it will be all the way in the front, so as you can see here. And then sort as well. So so you're gonna sort by alphabetical. And then another thing useful functions from the string have a join, so you can concatenate each of the item via the plus as a separator between each of the mounts here, which is very useful. So one more really easy, you will see this a lot. In Python, a lot of times the coding is really simplified, or the language itself has a lot of strong support for these value assignment, those things. So here's one example. So you can assign the first two items within the mount directly via this way. You don't need to assign one by one. Is you assign 0 to 2, which is a two number, to the first two item within the list, to a new one, which is basically replacing the January and February to 0 and 1. You will see the result become 0 and 1, and then all the remaining items still stay the same, which is really convenient. So how do you add item to mounts? I mean to a list, you do append. And how do you, I think we have talked about the length of the mounts, length of the list. One more thing is the query. Here is called a query. So is somewhat a little bit similar to link, but I would say C# link might, in this case, it might be a little bit more powerful than the query here, but the query here is still quite useful. So how to read that? So basically, for m in mouse, just like a from link in the C# link is a from m in mouse. And then well, if is a kind of the criteria. Basically, here I'm saying the type of the mouse is equals to string, then return, then select amount. So basically, let's select them afterwards. It will put it in the front, and then use the square bracket, means it's gonna return and capture those into a list. So that you can see, it's gonna filter out all the amounts, which is as type of string. It will get rid of these 0 and 1 and becomes March all the way down, which is really useful. So list is ordered and then can have duplicate items. Set is not ordered, so there's no order within set, and then um, there's no duplicate, which is unique. Everything is unique. So for example, in the country here, we have 5 countries. Actually, 2 of them are duplicate. US have 2, China have 2, and then so when you put this, how do you declare a set? Basically, put the list into a set function, and then we'll return a set for you. And then when you check the length of the country, will become 3 because it's gonna remove the 2 duplicate USA and the 2 duplicate China. So how do you add item to the set? You just add to dot add, which is a little bit different than list. List you do append, and then here do add. I think it makes sense because list have the order, and then this one doesn't have order, so which makes sense to me. The dictionary is also used really, really a lot, especially in the web programming. So because you have all the parameter, which is key value pair thing, and then also you have all the JSON object, form values, key value pair, those things. So so this dictionary is really, really similar to C sharp, and then you can do a key value pair, and then how do you declare a dictionary? Just do curly bracket, and then this will initiate a empty dictionary, and then you do a key value if you want to input something like a key and a value. You would do key and a value here. So anything immutable can be as a key. So here the key is kind of type of integer, and then value is the value can be anything, any object type. So here the value is the string. So you put in the 92078 zips, and then you will return the city name. So it's the markers here. Another useful function in the new Python is the double star. So you do double star and then put um, the dictionary. You will basically get each item within the dictionary. So in this case, you have two dictionary and then you want to merge them. You just do double star parameter one will get each item within the parameter one dictionary, and then the same for parameter two, and then you will combine these two into a merged dictionary, as you see over here. And then by the way, yeah, so the order were different because it's kind of key value pair. Okay, range is kind of used a lot in the loop because there's, as you can see, there will be no index version of the for loop as later on we will see. So the range is kind of alternative way. So you can do a range and then give a number. You will return the a range of numbers between the boundary you give. So range 20 will give you the 0 to 20. Okay, another thing is about tuple. Tuple is um, it's new. We don't have something like that in C sharp. So tuple, by the way, tuple also is immutable, which means once you declare, you will not be changed. So GPS, you do how do you define a tuple? You do a round bracket. So we have seen the square bracket, curly bracket, and this is a round bracket. And then you put the any tuple items within the bracket, round bracket, and then separate by comma. So you've got GPS, and then you have like longitude, latitude, longitude. So you do, and then you print, and then you will give you the result. And the type of the tuple is a type of class of tuple. And then tuple, and then another thing really useful is about tuple assignment. So you can assign a tuple into multiple variable. So this is really, really useful. So you will see this a lot. So this is a tuple is basically called unpack into um, two variables here, latitude and longitude. And then so that was tuple. And so one big thing I think is around the coding style. So we have this is maybe kind of I would say the first biggest thing transition from C sharp to Python, the you are always trying to write, let's say, the ground bracket. You always want to write the curly bracket. You will always want to write the semicolon, which is not used here. So basically, this Python is more simpler, more simplicity oriented programming language. So there's no declaration, something like that. So you don't have a semicolon at the end of the line. You don't have a curly bracket. Um, you don't have the curly bracket. Um, yeah, you don't have the curly bracket. And then the function if else try catch and block of code. And then um, there's no kind of a round bracket for if else or those kind of a statement, the Boolean operation statement type of thing like that. Another thing, because this is a dynamic language, you don't have the type declaration. So although you do have somewhere to declare that, but typically you won't see the type of declaration in the function signature or return type. Um, so this is a similar to JavaScript. Um, so yours, yeah, it might be you will get used to that. The different, I think, is not the full screen. And there's some item down here, but so some general simple one you don't use, uh, like a slash style to comment the code or slash slash use sharp, and then um, so you use like a triple double quote for function specification. And then one thing is you use the column to and then indication. These two are really important. So indentation is really like enforced here. So indentation here kind of indicate the scope of the code. Um, so in C Sharp or Java or C, you use a curly bracket to indicate the scope of the code. Here, everything is rely on indentation. So don't put extra space or extra tab for your code. It will change your scope of the code. And then when you start a new scope, or typically those will have the column at the end. For example, the definition function, you will have, column and then if statement or while statement, those all will have a column in the end. So let's see some examples. So like for example, the if you do if this, you don't need to have the bracket ground bracket after that. Um, you can, but you don't have to. And then you will see you have the column here, which is indicating the scope of the remaining line. Well, typically the code editor will do those for you. I mean the indentation. Um, so it's not much different except the else if thing. Um, the keywords are a bit different here. And the for loop, the only version of the for loop in Python is the enumeration version, I would say. There's no index version. So for whatever item within the list, and then you're gonna print them out here. So in order to do the in that version, you do a range, as we mentioned earlier. You use range function, and then you will get all the and range and then length of the list, and then you will give the each of the ID or index um, for the items. If you want to go get both index and value, and then there's another type called an enumerator. Enumerate if you call enumerate function, you will get the enumerator for you, and then you will have the tuple. You will return the tuple of index and the value, and then that way you can get there. As you can see, the first one the index, and the second one the value of the list item. Um, so a while loop, pretty much similar to C sharp, except you don't have a curly bracket, and then you have the column here, and then you don't need to have the bracket here. This a try catch similar. Try except the catch you do try except, and then you accept like exception one type one as a that's similar. You can do multiple except here, just like C sharp you can do multiple catch, different type of exception. There's not much different. All right, function. So function is simpler here. You don't have the type declaration or you don't have the parameter declaration. So I mean the parameter type declaration. And then every function by default will return none if you don't return anything. So there's no public void type of thing like C sharp. So how do you define a function? You just define def and then function name, and the naming conversion is the small I mean the lowercase and then underscore separated words, and then do each of the parameter, and then you do default parameter the same as C sharp, like equals to whatever. So here is kind of a sample, and then you see all the indentation here. So anything within the function should be indented to this line here. And then if we'll have another indentation on top of that. And then for I have another, and then if I have another. So all these indentation matters. So this here is out of the scope of the define because this is aligned with here. And then here's another example. This example returns a tuple. So you return two values, which is uh, kind of weird if you don't understand. This is actually a tuple. So actually, don't treat it as a return two item. This is return one tuple. So if you return this, you're gonna return a tuple. Okay, so so those are the key functions type and then operations. How about the library? Once you have these syntax understand, and then some of the useful area like random or daytime operation, file operation, network operation. So Python have really strong support for those, each of those, and then some of the building, some of the third-party libraries, and then we will see more third-party libraries. How do you import a library? Here we call it import module. So import, just like a C sharp, you add a DL and then you use using keywords. Here you use pip to install the package, just like add a DL to or install via NuGet package to your project. Here you use pip or anaconda to download the package. And then how do you reference that package? Just use the import keyword here. So here you import a math module, and then anything within the module you do a math dot. So math dot exponential 3. And then here's I have a module called a my module. I'll write it, and within that you have a hello function. So you import a my module, and then you do my module dot hello. There's a function defined there. So really simple. So you sometimes the module will be big, and then you don't want to import everything. You can do from the module and import only item, like for example, only function or only class you want. So in this case, from my module, I only want to import the hello function. So I will do from my module import hello function, and then next time I just use hello because the interpreter knows where hello coming from. And then in fact, if you do my module.hello, you will throw exception, I think, because you only import the hello. is they don't know about the my module anymore. So and then you can do alias as well. So you can do alias for module. You can do alias for the function you imported. So in this case, import my. So your my module become my. So my dot hello will becomes it will reference to the same hello function. Right. Random is useful in the mathematic operation. So import random and then random dot random integer. So you can you will return a integer between the scope similar, and then another two like a handy function like sample. You can sample two items within the list. So random sample country have two, and then you give return two because our country, remember, we have a duplicate, so that's fine. The two USA, and then the choice basically you will will be random pick one item within the list. So the country is a list, and you will random pick one. Okay, daytime. So daytime is actually in the module called daytime. So it has these five key class. So there time delta, time zone info, time, daytime, date, and then you import. For example, you want to use date only. From daytime package, the module import the uh, date, and then for the date class, you have a class method called time today. You'll return today, and then you want to new a new date. You just add date and then put year and then month and date. It will return the date for you. And then if you do time diff, um, so you have two date, like day two is 2001, you will minus date one, and then you will return the minus operation will return a class, an instance of a class of time delta. Time delta will have the property called days, and then you will get the date for you. Okay, so file is kind of building system functions. Reading, writing files really, really simple. So just open a file, similar to C, I would say. Open a file and then read it, and then it will print everything within the file and then close it. The same thing for write, is just open and then the write and then close it. So sometimes you will use with function a lot, with not function with the keywords. It will basically automatically close the file for you after the line of the scope here finished. Network. Network is also really easy and useful, powerful here as well. So the library here is called requests. So you import a request and then do a request.get and or post. So get will get the URL and then it will basically return a response class. And then the response class instead of the object response object will have the property called text. So it's basically the body of the response object. And then since it's a string, I can do a slice of the string. This is also really handy. I want the first 100 character within the string is just to, the slice from beginning to the 100. It will print that for you. All right, so about class. So for class, we'll see somehow like it's really similar to C Sharp, but it's more about the naming convention and the coding styles. So for class, you just like do a car and then colon and then all the variable class. I mean the property of the class you put on the top typically. And then, so the construction function like you do in C Sharp, you just public class car and then put the construction parameter. In here, you do underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So anything with underscore underscore and then something, this typically means a system function. So, and then the same thing as you can see here, it's a string. So this, and then you will always see the self is kind of a explicitly passing as a variable here to the function. So self exactly the same as the this in C Sharp. So you do all the variable assignment here, and then you have define another your instance method, and then uh, underscore underscore similar to C Sharp toString function. So how do you new a car? Just like my car equals to car and then passing the initiation parameter. You don't use a new, just directly car. And then you access the property the same dot. And then car is a type of car. And then you print the my car is basically use the toString function with them, and then you call the method of instance method the same, like my car next maintenance is the state. Okay, so the class I would say really similar. So here's a bunch of useful libraries, and there's more down the screen. You will see in the Jupyter Notebook. I'll publish these into the GitHub, so you will see all the items there. And by the way, the PowerPoint kind of slideshow I'm showing right now is actually using the Jupyter Notebook as well. So these are the a set of libraries recommended by Udacity Python course. I saw this really useful. Um, so maybe down the road we'll use many of them like Flask, Django, um, like Beautiful Soup, those things. The tools I've been using Anaconda for all the environment setup. They're really saving a lot of my time. Visual Studio Code, I think a lot of people using PyCharm. Visual Studio Code is really getting more and more powerful now. And then since I use other language tools like in Node.js or whatever, so Visual Studio Code is really also kind of fit my purpose as well. And then the editing experience also quite nice. And then with the Visual Studio Code Jupyter plugin, it has the inline editing and debugging along with the Jupyter Notebook. This is really, really handful for me. So beside the normal debugging experience, it has the integration with these is really powerful and then useful for me to write down those things. So it take advantage of the Visual Studio Code like code intelligence and debugging experience, and also you can output those things align with the Jupyter Notebook, which is really suitable. All right, so that's pretty much it. So here's some additional resource I really strongly recommend it. The first one is the Udacity Python Introduction to Python course. So anyone like even without any programming experience can look into that. This is one of the reference key highly recommended items. It's about 10 hours I would say. Reading or labs type of thing, 10 to maybe 12. So C Sharp .NET developer, there's another video kind of comparison, deep comparison between C Sharp and then the is a YouTube video. So recommend that, and then another video for some of the like advanced user for tips on writing Python coding and the features. Okay, so um, I think that's pretty much it. And then again, all these you have seen all these items actually is from the PowerPoint is for within the Jupyter notebook. I will publish this to GitHub, and then you can reference from github.com, police Python learning. Thanks again for watching. Hope this is also saving you some of your time when you transition from .NET to Python. Any comments, feel free to leave on the YouTube channel below. Thanks again.